It was 1986. It was the World Cup finals. Our fatal attraction to footballing action had carried us down Mexico way. We had taken on the best. We had got gubbed. The whole story had been told. Or had it? 2 seasons have come and gone since then. 2 more seasons, 1 more chapter for the annals of football's heroic history. It's a chapter that must be recorded, a tale that must be told. Or is it only another excuse?
Only an Excuse presents A Tale of 2 Seasons, narrated by William McIlvany. Oh, dear.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, especially for Dundee United manager Jim McLean.
Well, the last 2 seasons have been terrible for me. I'm more depressed than I've ever been. Trouble is, nobody's noticed the difference.
Ali MacLeod, meanwhile, was doing somersaults at Somerset Park.
Oh, tremendous. Over the moon. Now I am back where I belong, at the very top of the bottom half of top-class football.
And at Firhill, Chairman Miller Reid reflected the club's new optimism.
Well, 2 seasons ago, Partick Thistle were considered the joke team of Scottish football. Now, we're not so highly thought of.
But these were merely pimples compared to the eruptions at Ibrox that were to transfigure the phazog of Scottish football. The Souness-inspired reformation resulted in a resurgence of the Ibrox unfaithful. The season of the born-again Balloonos was at hand. Souness and Rangers were headline news every day, and the new surge of interest emanating from Ibrox was to permeate from Premier to Pub League.
Right, OK, boys. Now, this is a new season, and right away we're up against top-class opposition and thinks big. Not only do they have a medical tin and a full set of soaps, but they've signed an Englishman. And right, fair enough, he's a 37-year-old sweetie-rep with a peptic ulcer. But the point is, they've flung down a gauntlet, and it's up to us to pick it up. Now, who's it up to, lads?
The club office and Sawmill and Tannery.
Right. Now, last season, we went out in the first round of the Cup, and we finished 14th in the league. But that's no reason to be complacent, right? Because there's a wind of change blowing through the Bogut Smith String Vest Sunday League, and either we respond or we go under. Now, that's how I'm introducing a few tactical changes that'll keep us abreast of the times. Wally, from now on, you're libero, right? I've made an in-depth study of European football by reading the shoot, and believe me, you've got all the attributes a good libero needs. You've no skill, you've no speed, but you look dead gallus when you're fitting the ball and wave the midfield forward. OK? Good. Now, Desi! You're next. From now on, I want you to do for us what Altobelli does for Italy. Kick blocks from behind, then when they turn round, fall down on your face. Now, all right, OK, I know that'll offend the purists amongst you, but if it's pure football you want, you can clear off and play for Holland or somebody, right? Oh, and one last thing. There'll be a testimonial next week for Luggy Chalmers. As you know, Big Luggy's career was tragically ended when he crushed 4 discs attempting a Hugo Sanchez handspring. So let that be a lesson to all yous. There's no room for physical fitness in amateur football.
Celtic's form slumped. The defence was like the rides at the Glasgow Garden Festival. You never got all of them working on the same day. The title was slipping. Surely now they would spend.
No. There will be no panic buying. Just panic.
And most of that was over Mo Johnston. Johnston's contract was up at the end of the season, and helping him to decide his future, Bill McMurdo.
As a former associate of the Scottish Loyalist Party, who lives in a red, white and blue house called Ibrox, of course I have Celtic's interests at heart. And Mo's.
Oh yes, he does.
'cause I want to play with Celtic.
Celtic's response to this was to carry out a dope test on Supermo.
That's right. They felt that anyone making statements like that had to be on something.
But it was the Rangers fans who were high on the grass of Pittodrie. After 9 barren years, they were in a celebratory mood and responded to the occasion as they traditionally do when their team wins, or loses, or draws, or scores a goal, or has a man sent off. They sang The Sash. The Rangers Revolution had swept the Tsars of Celtic into soccer Siberia. For Celtic FC, the season had ended with the board, the management, the team, and those who matter most, the board's friends, 20,000 Premier Leagues under a blue sea. Like the famous Celtic shorts, David Hay's days at Parkhead were numbered. Celtic chairman Jack McGinn takes up the story.
The day I sacked David Hay, well, it was the worst day of my life because, you see, I'd lost a $5 that morning. A $5? I looked everywhere, but nothing. I don't know how it happened, so as I said, I'd lost this $5, so, well, it was the worst day of my life, and coincidentally, that was the day I had to sack David Hay.
You want to see me, Mr. McGinn?
Yes, David. Come in. I've something very serious to tell you. Sit down, David.
Aye.
There's something I've got to... No, David, not on the floor. Sit down in a chair.
Oh, right. God, the chair, aye.
Now, look, I've a proposition for you, and you'd be a lunatic to turn it down. David, how would you like to make history?
History. Is that like what you get in geography books?
That's it.
Do you not have to be dead to make history?
No, look, David, I've got to tell you that you're a nice man.
Oh, thanks very much. You're nice yourself.
Thank you very much. But you're nicer.
Oh, no. You're the nicerest.
No, I insist. You're the nicest.
Yeah.
In fact, you're too nice.
Oh, thanks very much.
So you're sacked.
Sacked.
Congratulations, David. The first Celtic manager ever given the bullet.
Oh, is that what you've got me in here for?
Yes.
Thanks. For a minute, I thought you were going to offer me a contract.
Hay had been removed from the sagging Celtic mattress. Who would be the new manager? The whole operation of recruiting Billy McNeill was performed with the greatest of secrecy.
Well, we wanted it kept secret until everything had been finalised. So we met one evening in a fine fair car park. Well, we chose the fine fair because their prices are really excellent. Tremendous value, especially their tinned foods. And have you seen the prices of their butcher meat and their carrier bags? It's free.
Billy McNeill, a Lisbon lion, was charged with the task of restoring Celtic's pride at a time when the outlook in paradise was hellish. Had Caesar met his Ides of Waterloo?
Well, obviously, to be honest, this is a very, very difficult time for Celtic. I mean, we've lost Mo Johnson, Murdo MacLeod and Brian McClare. But it's not all bad news. We've lost Alan McInally too.
McClare's transfer exposed another casualty of the passing seasons, Alex Ferguson's integrity. Aberdeen's Fergie.
Well, I think it's a disgrace. I mean, Aston Villa got Neil Cooper for less than half his true value. The transfer tribunal comes down on the side of the English yet again, as usual.
United's Fergie.
No. No, Manchester United played a realistic price for Brian McClare. I think the transfer tribunal are very fair and have done an excellent job, as usual.
Celtic's fortunes were to change as dramatically as Jock Brown's pronunciation of Miksu Patalainen. Billy's Bahoys won the league.
To be honest, Willie, the honest was honest. And honestly, Willie, the honesty of the team was magnificent. To be honest, we've got very big plans for this club. To be honest, the stadium's had a facelift and, well, hopefully Mick McCarthy will be next. Willie.
The 100-year-old club had finally abandoned their 100-year-old thinking, and to celebrate their glorious past, the club commissioned a musical version of The Celtic Story. In keeping with some of the team's performances that season, the only two decent songs came in the last minute, and one of them looked suspiciously offside. But this was not the sweetest music we heard around that time. England's performance in the European Championships may yet result in Bobby Robson winning Scotland's Manager of the Year award. It is surely a uniquely Scottish passion, watching a team we couldn't beat being humiliated in a competition we couldn't qualify for. Yet even we felt no joy, as the less reputable element among England's following cast a bleak shadow over the proceedings. That despicable few who bring shame and disgrace to the national side whenever England play abroad. I'm talking, of course, of Jimmy Hill and John Motson. But we cannot be complacent, for we have our own verbal hooligans. The race was on to find the new voice of football, and there was no shortage of radio Rambos in the Battle of the Bilge. There were those who preferred the direct approach, like Bob, now you know, Crampsey.
But that was back in 1922. However, the 30 Years' War, precipitated by the refusal to elect Ferdinand II king, did end with the Peace of Westphalia. I hope, caller, that answers your question about referees.
There were reassuring ramblers like Dick Donnelly.
Yes, Dickie Donnelly here at a rather bleak and drizzly Danes Park, Dundee, on a dull, overcast, cloudy sort of day. Team news, well, much as you'd expect for this Dundee-Motherwell clash. The teams are Dundee and Motherwell. And my forecast, Paul, well, I think the drizzle will continue with showers turning heavy at times and clouds thickening but winds gradually dying out.
There were even dynamic duos like Chick Young and Derek Johnston.
Hello, Paul, and as you join Derek and myself, it's Hibs 0, Hearts 0. And quite frankly, that's how I see the game finishing.
Well, honestly, Paul, I don't know what Chuck bases that assumption on. You see, I believe if Hearts can get a quick goal in the second half, Paul, they'll go on and demolish this Hibs defence.
Well, maybe they will, Derek, but it won't be as quickly as you demolished that pie.
I'll admit, Paul, that if my waistline was receding as quick as Chick's hairline, I'd have nothing to worry about. And I don't think Hearts have anything to worry about either. I believe they'll hold on to their position in the league a good bit longer than Chick Young held on to his at the evening Times.
Yes, Paul, and if Derek Johnston's opinion carried as much weight as his thighs, he might be worth listening to. And as far as the league's concerned, Paul, I can't see past Rangers.
Well, that's obvious to anyone who's ever read your book.
Now, let me tell you, Fatso, the rebirth of the Blues was an unbiased piece of objective journalism, impartial and informative.
Well, that much is true, Paul. I did learn one thing from Chick's book. The advantage of being two-faced in the business. It's enabled Chick to be a blue nose and a brown nose at the same time.
But the eventual winner of this dogfight was a tenacious little Shih Tzu. Hello, caller, you're through to Jerry McNee.
Good evening, Jerry.
Now, just a moment. What do you mean by that? That's exactly the kind of blinkered attitude that's poisoning the game of football. We can't have people coming on making these provocative statements. Are you in any way meteorologically qualified to judge what is or isn't a good evening?
No, but what I was trying to say...
No, I think the voice of football has covered that point pretty extensively. The voice of football or the voice of a football. One thing we must acknowledge, Jerry McNee is a great motivator. He only needs to start talking and we are motivated to reach out and twiddle the dial. If any team can reflect with bitter irony on the difference a season can make, it is surely St. Mirren. Hampden, May 87. With one twist of the knife, Ian Fergie Ferguson skins the Tangerines of Dundee United and makes a meal of Jim McLean's men who simply run out of juice in a cup final made to make the mouth water. With silver in the sideboard, the Buddies approached the new season with justifiable optimism. Optimism reinforced when their star striker was persuaded to put crayon to paper and renew his commitment to the club. That's excellent, Ian, excellent. Well, we've agreed to your signing-on fee, your wage increase, and a bonus scheme you can expect for the duration of your contract. Now, is there anything else you'd like to say, son?
Aye. I want to play for Rangers.
Already an unpleasant Paisley pattern had emerged. Would Fergie join the Gers? Would Fitzpatrick depart for Dunfermline? As it happened, both were superseded by Frank McGarvey being sent to Coventry. Then assistant manager Jimmy Bone.
Well, Frank McGarvey was substituted during their 1-0 trouncing of Tromsø in the Cup Winners' Cup. He came off the park and ran straight up the tunnel. I could tell he was upset. I'd never seen him run anywhere in a straight line before. So I followed him into the dressing room.
Where things came to an ugly end.
Oh yes, my fists in Frank's head.
McGarvey went marching out, swearing,
I'll definitely never set foot inside that club again.
With transfer talk rampant, Alex Smith tried to protect Ian Ferguson's form by dropping him from the team altogether. Saints goalkeeper Campbell Money.
Yes, the boss thought that playing Ian might unsettle the rest of the team, so he dropped him for a few games, and it worked. We were too busy getting pasted to be unsettled.
Meanwhile, McGarvey stuck to his guns and swore,
I'll probably never set foot inside that club again.
In February, Rangers paid £1 million for Ian Ferguson, and £1 million. And Frank McGarvey, meanwhile, proved to be a man of principle by swearing,
Well, I might just possibly set foot inside Love Street again.
Clearly something had to be done. A compromise was reached. Jimmy Bone was sacked. McGarvey.
Personally, I took no pleasure or satisfaction in the sacking of Jimmy Bone, and I said so at the champagne party I threw that night.
Rightly famous for his about-turns on the pitch, McGarvey now went back to St Mirren and played his part in plunging them deep into relegation trouble. In a dignified show of fair play and loyalty, the board refused to make McGarvey the scapegoat. Instead, they make him assistant manager. Alex Smith is given the bum's rush, and Tony Fitzpatrick takes up the reins of the sinking ship.
Well, me and Frank know this season will be very tough, but we're confident we can avoid the stupid mistakes that have plagued this club in the past.
What stupid mistakes exactly?
Well, for one thing, we'll make sure we don't win the Scottish Cup again.
The Scottish Cup has a history all of its own, a tradition of mouth-watering ties like civil service strollers versus Inverness Clachnacudden. A tradition of wheeling out deadbeat celebrities to appear in Supersport. A tradition of Rangers going out to wee teams in the second round. This new consistency raised many questions. Dunfermline's Jim Leishman.
Today a great victory has been won, and I don't want to spread any gloom. But who knows what happened to the television in the Rangers dressing room?
But sadly, this was not the only shameful incident in that year's competition. The final itself was marred when Margaret Thatcher made an inflammatory gesture. She turned up. And Aberdeen were involved in a semi-final which highlighted the unacceptable face of Scottish football, Davy Dodds. Since Fergie's farewell, the Northern Lights had shone dimly on the Dons. Ian Porterfield had arrived on the scene, and it wasn't long before his special brand of magic began to have its effect. Half the team asked for a transfer, and Joe Miller went to Celtic.
Oh, I'm just delighted. It's just like a dream come true for me. Right, can I go and play in the swings with my pals now, eh? Can I, please? Can I get sweeties too?
But if nothing else, Ian Porterfield dispelled the myth of Aberdonian meanness by blowing £500,000 on an investment for the past, Charlie Nicholas. The Cannonball Kid's previous announcement that he planned to quit the game came as a major shock. Many people thought he already had.
Well, I was in soccer hell, the doldrums, like, you know. So, when I heard Ian Porterfield had come in for me, my immediate reaction was, who?
Charlie arrived at Aberdeen Airport. He didn't want to draw any attention to himself, so he wore a big black hat and generally tried to look like Bono of U2. This was the new Charlie Nicholas, a Charlie Nicholas we'd be seeing a lot more of, about 2 stones more to be exact. But we'd be seeing a lot less of Ian Porterfield, who left the club on a point of principle. He was rubbish. Who was small enough to fill his boots? One man, Alex Smith, who immediately took steps to prevent the opposition scoring by installing a Dutch cap in the Aberdeen goal. But in the hurly-burly, keepy-uppy world of international football, we don't just import, we export as well. The cream of Scottish free transfer talent is to be found all over the world, from Hong Kong to France, from New South Wales to Spain. Spain. From the Spanish España, meaning Spain. A land of football legends, instantly recognizable names like Butraguano, Zubizarreta, Giocha, and teams that are part of soccer lore. More than most, Spain has produced teams that anyone with a knowledge of the game reveres. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. And then there's Seville, where it was high noon for the man with no brain. Jock Wallace was sacked because he couldn't learn the lingo. This, of course, came as no surprise to the folks back home. In 50-odd years, he had never learned English. What chance had Spanish in 18 months? To help him through this difficult period, Jock turned to religion and was soon back worshipping at Ibrox, but not for long. I was just giving my opinion of the team's performance, to everyone within a 2-mile radius. When suddenly, right out of the blue room, I was frog marched to the door, Now, I'm a blue nose. I always have been, I always will be, and I'll never be disloyal to Rangers, never. But I have to say, there's things happening at the club, that I would never have allowed, never. You're talking about the poor disciplinary record, the press relations. No, I'm talking about them no letting the Orange Order hold its divine service at Ibrox. But have the Teddies or the Tick really changed their spots? True, within their ranks, both Rangers and Celtic boast the new breed of footballer. Young, articulate players. Yappies, like Ali McCoist.
Well, absolutely magnificent and totally tremendous. It was ex-certificate stuff. The pitch was fantastic. The fans were vociferous and the lads were amazingly unbelievable. So at the end of the day, it was an absolutely magnificent, totally tremendous, fantastic, vociferous, unbelievable result.
And Paul McStay.
It was quite a good game.
But traditions die hard. And the evidence suggests that when fanned, the old firm's embers of embitterment will burst into a torrid conflagration of psychopathic hijinks. The Skol Cup Final 1986-87. Amidst the white heat of Hampden, Mo Johnson receives a red card. In the ensuing melee, referee David Syme is struck by a 50-pence piece, an incident which causes much animosity as Celtic and the referee argue over who should get to keep the coin. Reaction was immediate and not surprisingly contrasting. David Hay, can I have your immediate reaction to the match?
I'm disgusted. But what do you expect, eh? You Celtic would be better packing up and going to play in Scotland.
But this is Scotland.
Is it? Well, Turkey then.
Davy Cooper was happier though. His performance had earned him a place amongst the front-runners for the Sports Scene Sports Personality of the Year.
Obviously, I'm delighted to be considered for this award because I didn't know I had a personality.
But worse was to follow. October the 17th, 1987, a date that will live in infamy. The Skol Cup final was merely the fuse. This was the explosion. Chris Woods.
Off!
Frank McAvenny.
Off!
Terry Butcher.
Off!
Graham Roberts.
Stays on?
But these incidents didn't simply fade with the full-time whistle. All four ended up in court charged with breach of the peace. In court, video evidence was used, presumably not Scott Sports highlights because, as usual, they missed most of the action.
Call Frank McAvenny.
I invoke the Fifth Amendment, claim the right to remain silent on the grounds that I will most probably make an arse of myself.
But the future for the old firm looms bright in the tweed smooth skills of men like Scott Nisbet, one of the game's great thinkers. He thinks he's a player. And Peter Grant, a Celt willing to go out and dye his hair for the jersey. They and others like them must realise their responsibilities and promote the positive aspects of being an old firm player, such as posing like a Haddy on the fashion pages of the Sunday Mail, claiming I'm no bigot in their books, and providing successful internationalists for England and the Republic of Ireland. Grant's highlights highlight an ominous new presence in our game, the hairdresser. While Archie Macpherson remains the thinly crowned king of the coiffure, one man has emerged as the new heir apparent, Dougie Donnelly. Throughout the season, Donnelly had experts and punters alike gasping at his variety of striking styles and imaginative follicle formations. Less gifted fringe players like Ian Archer stuck to the traditional sweeper system, while purists such as the new doyen of Dundee, Dave Smith, maintained that hair should be played wide in the flanks rather than through the middle. Perhaps this, more than anything, explains his astonishing parting with Plymouth. And yet, typically, just as we Scots curled smugly in our belief that we had the league of beleaguered heads, one man, Colombia's Carlos Valderrama, exploded on the scene like a burst sofa, reminding us that our game has a long way to go before it matches the flamboyant free expression of the Latin approach. Colombia arrived to compete, if that's the word, in the Rouse Cup, a tournament that lashed players to the brink of uncontrollable apathy.
This is Andy Roxburgh. I'm sorry I'm not home right now. Please wait for the tone and then leave your name, number and reason for withdrawing from the squad. I'll be philosophical about it as soon as I can.
The past 2 seasons have seen Andy Pandemonium lead us from confusion into chaos, and yet he refuses to be disheartened.
Well, why should I be disheartened? In Jim Leighton, we have a truly magnificent keeper. And in Roy Aitken, we have Roy Aitken.
Aitken is an inspirational captain who covers every blade of grass on the Hampden pitch, and whose skills therefore have quite rightly been compared to those of the man who drives the lawnmower. But as we build towards our next anticlimax, the 1990 World Cup, does Ernie Walker feel Scotland's never-say-goals spirit can see us through the qualifying stages?
Oh, yes. France, Yugoslavia, Norway, Cyprus. We have to be pleased with that section.
Dare I ask why?
Because we've avoided Malta, Saudi Arabia and Luxembourg.
But football must never give way to despair, for think of despair and you think of Falkirk. Think of Falkirk and you think of one man, with a name that sounds like a hot takeaway from your local bakery, a Crawford Bapty. Bapty embodies all those qualities that a small club holds most dear. He's big, he's glaikit, and he doesn't mind drinking stewed tea. As long as there are players around with names like Bapty, Bog, Doak and McDicken, no hamper will ever go uncarried. No fit of pique will be heard as a freezing sponge is slapped on a severed hamstring because the last of the deep heat has been saved for the guy who's interesting Rangers. In fact, to retire through injury is the secret ambition of all such players, for therein lies their one chance of immortality, being patronised in the Alex Cameron column as one of the game's unsung heroes. That and a testimonial against Auchinleck Talbot. It hardly seems worth it, does it? But for the Crawford Bapties of this world, it's more than enough. It'll mean they've something to look back on when, baldy-headed and pot-bellied, they are driving their taxis down the dreich-wee streets of Tranent and Camelin, regaling their passengers with tales of past glories.
Oh, aye. Personally, I always thought Kenny Dalglish was overrated. I mean, what has he done, eh? No, I mean, I've got a pair of shirts in my house, you know. Aye? Oh, aye. Oh, did I tell you I used to play for East Stirling? Oh, aye. Done it all. I've had my hands shaken by Danny McGrain. I've had my shin shattered by Hugh Burns.
Burns is the raw meat in the jam tarts. A team that has known misfortune over the past 2 seasons. Craig Levine's been injured and Brian Whittaker hasn't. And then there's their colourful chairman, a man with ambition, a man with principles, a man with one of those faces you'd just like to slap. Wallace Mercer.
I know what some people think of me, but there are no big heads at Heart of Midlothian. A club which I have, by the way, single-handedly transformed into one of the 2 biggest clubs in Edinburgh. No, it's as I said, there's no room for any big heads at Tynecastle. Well, not since mine arrived.
If Mercer is a maroon balloon on a flight of fancy, at Ibrox the ego has landed. Fast becoming the Howard Hughes of Scottish football, Souness shunned the press, although he did make contact with Jerry McNee. He steadfastly refused to be interviewed by a journalist, so that's why he agreed to speak to Ian Archer.
Can I put it to you that it was a disappointing season?
At the end of the day, you could say that. I mean, we did lose the championship, and I won't make any excuses for that. I mean, no excuses whatsoever. But it was because we lost Terry Butcher. I mean, losing Terry meant our defence was reduced to just, 4 internationalists.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose that also cost you the European Cup.
Again, I thought we were very unlucky against Stow. I mean, especially after keeping it so tight for the first 50 seconds.
Can I ask, Graham, why Robert Fleck had to go?
No, it was a personal decision. Mine. Again, Flecky wanted to play for Rangers, but I felt he was just too ugly for the team photo. Throughout the season, there was never transfer talk at Ibrox, just transfers. There was Trevor Francis. Many people thought he was too old, but he showed he still had it every time he was carried on as a substitute. Mark Falco, a classic Rangers signing. He came, he saw, he went away again. And John Brown, which proved that in spite of all the pressures, Souness still hadn't lost his sense of humour. Ian Rush. I'm happy with Juventus. I was Italy's top scorer last year with 3 goals, and I've just signed a new 50-year contract, which I hope to honour, But, Juventus might change their mind about me, so I've promised Graham, I'll let him know the minute I wake up with a horse's head in me bed. But if rumours that Rush was coming were untrue, the rumours that Bartram and Roberts were off were not.
Well, the paper said I had called Graham Souness a bastard. This was wrong. What I called him was a dirty bastard.
Despite denials, the Danish star couldn't save his bacon, and it came as no surprise when Bartram left the club, no doubt regretting his rasher statements. But if bye-bye Bartram was a surprise, Robbo's rubber ear was a bombshell.
Well, obviously, I don't want to say anything about the incident, because I hope maybe I'll get to meet Graham Souness again. And this time I'll make sure I don't miss him.
Over the last 2 seasons, football has changed. Now the tang of liniment mingles with the sweet smell of hot dosh, and a miasma of meaningless memoirs clutters the counters of bargain books. Juvenile junk like Feed the Bear by Roy Aitken, True Blue by Davy Cooper, and Existentialism My Way by Pat Nevin. Nevin is that rarest of animals in the football jungle, a human being. Not only does he look intelligent, he very nearly is. Indeed, were it not for the fact that he once signed for Chelsea, you would almost trust him to sell you a pair of chinos. But at its centre circle, football is still a funny game, except when Archie Macpherson writes about it. And with a new season but a peas rattle away, the signs are healthy. Hamilton have been promoted to the relegation zone of the Premier League. Morton have unveiled their new strip, blue and white hoops with red faces. And Hibs finally have a chairman whose name the team are genuinely capable of living up to. Duff. And an intriguing array of questions already heightens our anticipation. When will Radio Clyde stop pretending and admit they get the results off the telly like everyone else? How will Tommy McLean's Motherwell fare this year with their attacking 8-1-1 formation? Who will cuff Dundee United in this year's Scottish Cup final? The answers to these questions are for the history books of the future, for we are now well into injury time and the referee is looking at his watch. So as we approach the final whistle of this tale of 2 seasons, it's a far, far better thing that I do now than I have ever done. I'm going to shut up.
A Tale of 2 Seasons featured Jonathan Watson and Tony Roper and was written by Wes Fargo, Bob Black, Chick Dickens, Neil Clark and Ian Patterson. The producer was Philip Devereux.